Welcome back to another video. Today I'm just going to film a really simple little Q&A, something that I was going to film for a while and I've never actually gotten around to it. So I asked you guys on Instagram for some questions, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'll leave that link down below. It's just at @standardbred. And yeah, that's where I share a lot more than I do on here, obviously. So anyway, I've got the questions, so we will get started. So the first question is, how do you get your horses to respond to your aids, and what aids do your whips replace? Well, it depends on the horse. So first of all, I have to ride horses that are pretty sensitive, like to the seat, and obviously horses that are forward thinking and don't require a lot of leg, because I haven't got that, and I need to be able to use my leg with seat aids and things like that to get them to go forward. I can't be using my leg to kick and get them to go forward because I don't have that. It's mainly a lot on the horse and having them that they're forward thinking and then that way inclined. Then after that, it's just really simple stuff that you start off with, and I don't try and, do anything complicated when I'm getting them used to it. Most of them understand. I haven't had a problem with horses not understanding my aids. Some of them pick it up quicker than others, and some of them I wouldn't personally compete. I can ride them for other people, but if it was my horse, I would want them to be more responsive than they are, but I can still ride them. And yeah, it's just a lot of simple stuff, a lot of reward when they get it right. You let them know they got it right, and then just like training any other movement, anything else. And then my whips replace my legs. So I ride with two whips, and yeah, my whips do everything that if you're an able-bodied rider, what your legs are doing when you ride, that's what my whips are doing. So when you would put on a leg aid like at the girth, I will use my whip. So I use my whips on the shoulder, just behind my leg at the girth, and then on their bum. On their bum is to go forward or to move the hindquarters over. If I'm using it behind my leg, that is for anything that you would normally use your leg for. So things like a leg yield, a shoulder in, getting inside bend, the half pass, even the flying changes, like anything like that. And then on the shoulder, I will use the whip if I need to get a little bit more like height in the shoulder and the front legs in, like, say, an extended trot. So Key uses the whips on the shoulder for the shoulder in, because he understands that aid better than using behind my leg, whereas on Charlie I'll ride the shoulder in with the whip behind my leg. So it just depends on the horse, and you just change the aid depending on the horse. Then I'll use the whip on the shoulder for anything else that I can't get behind my leg or on their bum. It was a lot easier with the other two, with Charlie and Kiwi, than it was with Stormy, because with Stormy I was learning how to ride with one leg and he had no idea of the aids and I had no idea how to do it. And so we just worked it out as we went along, and a lot of trial and error. Whereas when I got the other two, I knew what worked and what didn't work and what worked for me as a rider. So I was able to get on and kind of say to them, yep, this is the way we do it, as opposed to when I was riding Storm, it was very much sort of, Stormy, I'm not sure, and Storm was like, yeah, Mum, I'm not sure, and we kind of just had to work it out. Whereas, with the other two, I could get on and I was confident in my aids and I knew what to do, and then it was just how they responded that, like, say something like the shoulder in, Key can do it with the whip behind my leg, but he responds better on the shoulder, whereas if I put the whip on Charlie's shoulder in a shoulder in, she will shoot forward with me. So it just depends, but that's everything else is the same. Every aid I do is the same for the two of them. It's just that whip placement changed, but that was such a little tweak. It was so easy to make that tweak because the bog part of the aid, I knew from working it out with Storm, I knew what worked, if that makes sense. So yes, that is how we do that. Okay, do you do rider classes at shows, and do you think your disability affects how you're judged? So I used to do my rider classes at shows. I don't anymore, because Charlie is the only horse that I am showing in the show ring, and she is too small for a rider class because she's only 14 and a quarter. And so yeah, she's too small. But yeah, I used to ride in my rider classes. I've ridden in my rider class at Horse of the Year, and placed there, and also Show Horse Council Horse of the Year, and placed in my rider class there. And then I've been Supreme Open rider at the Spasser State Championships twice, and then won my champion rider in my rider class a lot. So no, I don't think it affected how I was judged, and it shouldn't do. If a judge is judging fairly, it shouldn't affect how I'm judged, and I don't think it did, to be honest. But yeah, I don't do them anymore purely because Charlie is too small. How does your disability affect your everyday life? So if you are new to the channel and you don't know about my disability, I will leave that whole story linked above, but also down in the description. But my disability affects every aspect of my life that you can imagine. So next time you're getting dressed, try and put your socks and your shoes on without moving your toes. And just see that the challenge that brings, putting things on like that, especially tighter shoes and stuff like that, without being able to move your toes. It affects how I sleep, it affects how I have to get dressed, it affects how I get in and out of a car, it affects how I drive, it affects how I shower. My bladder is neurogenic, which means it doesn't empty properly, and so it affects how I deal with all of that with catheters. It affects, obviously, how I ride, how I walk, how I sit, everything. Absolutely everything that you can imagine. It's not just the visible stuff. It's a lot of the invisible stuff as well, and I'm in pain 24/7. There is no moment of the day I am not in pain. That pain varies greatly, and there are days that my really good days, I'm still in pain, but it's really manageable, and then I have my other days when I can't get out of bed, and every other day in between. So yes, it affects every single aspect of my life. How old were you when you started riding? So again, that's a story I will leave linked below. But I was 5, so it was for my 5th birthday. I finally got a riding lesson. I'd sat on ponies and stuff like that before, but my actual first riding lesson, I was 5. What do you study at university? So I'm studying a double degree in human movement and psychology. I did 2 years of nursing prior to that, so I've been at uni 5 years, but 3 of those years have been the double degree, and I am hoping that once I've done my honours and my masters, provided I get into those, I will do sports psychology. I'd also love to work at the Women's and Kids with sick children and their families, and be able to help some of those children and their families in the way that I was helped. And to this day, I'm still helped, and I would love to be able to use my experience to help those families and those children, and yeah, otherwise then sports psychology is the plan. Will you ever get another Standardbred? No, is the answer to that question. I would take one on for someone else, but for myself personally, they don't suit what I am wanting to do now. Stormy, I never got him because he was a standardbred. I got him because he was Stormy, and he just so happened to be a standardbred. And he was amazing as a standardbred, and I love him to bits. But I don't love Stormy because he's a standardbred. I love Stormy because he's Stormy. And so, yeah, no, I wouldn't. It was a lot of work retraining him and getting him going, and then you still had all the stereotype, I suppose, to get over and all of that sort of stuff. And it's just a lot of work that I wouldn't want to have to do again, I suppose. So, yeah, no, I would not get another standardbred. I think Stormy's happy with that arrangement too, because that means that he's, he knows he's number one. Any interstate trips planned? And funnily enough, yesterday we booked our accommodation for nationals. So Charlie is competing, provided she gets accepted. She's qualified, but she needs to get accepted at the Australian National Championships in October, and that is in Victoria. So we will be hopefully travelling to Victoria for nationals. Tips for someone wanting to start work with horses. So again, for those that don't know, I worked as a stable hand and as a groom for since 2017, so it's 5 years ago, and it's only been the last 12 months that I finally gave that away. But I worked in multiple stables for different people at various levels of competition and with various different types of horses. And so my advice would just be prepared to work hard and to work long hours, and you've got to, I suppose, have a passion for the work you're doing, because it's a lot of physical work. And if you're not interested, I suppose, in the care of the horses and in what they're doing, then going and just cleaning their stables and stuff is a lot of work if you're not really interested. So if you're willing to learn and you're willing to listen, you will learn heaps just watching how other stables run and how other people keep their horses and why they do it that way. Just take all of it on board, just be like a sponge and soak it all up, because you'll learn so much, whether that's what to do or what not to do. You will just learn so much, and ask lots of questions, because quite often you're working, or at least I was working for a lot of knowledgeable people, and by asking questions you learn a lot of things that you just wouldn't have thought of. You see something and think, oh, why is that like that? And then you'd ask the question and you go, oh wow, I didn't know. So yeah, just learn as much as you can, because you'll be able to take that forward with you for ages. And then obviously be reliable and all of that sort of stuff, because then it goes both ways. If you're reliable for them, they, at least what I've found, they'll look after you. How much do you contribute to the horses and what do you do for work? So I am fully responsible for my horses, for my three. So I pay for everything. Feed, sawdust, chiro, dentist, farrier, comp entries, rugs, everything, tack. So yeah, I am fully responsible for them, hence why I have no money. And for work, I, like I mentioned, was a stable hand, but I am no longer. So I am a disability inclusion facilitator for a company down in town, delivering disability inclusion training to companies. So totally not horse related. And then I also coach. So I teach at a riding school and I coach privately. And then in my free time, I plat horses for people, prep horses at shows, all of that sort of stuff for my little business that I can also leave link down below if you're in South Australia and you're interested. There was a time there where I was also riding horses for people, but physically that was a lot, especially now that I've got three of my own in work, when I was only riding sort of 1.5, because Stormy's not really in work anymore. It wasn't so bad, but now that I've got 2 in full competition work, plus Stormy, physically I find that really difficult, and also time-wise with travel, it just wasn't working. So I don't ride horses for people anymore, but I wouldn't be object to the idea if anyone was interested and we made it work. And the last question I have today, because this video is already 15 minutes long, is long-term goals. So I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think it's more just seeing how far we'd go. I'd like to take Charlie to Melbourne Royal next year. So she will begin her little run of shows in the end of August, just before the Royal Show. And she'll start there, hopefully getting her qualies for Melbourne. So I'd love to take her. I could have taken her this year, but because of Nationals also being in Victoria, I chose Nationals instead of Melbourne Royal. So next year, I'd love to take her to Melbourne Royal. So that's probably my goal with her, other than to have a good show at the Royal Show, and hopefully have her go nicely for me at Nationals. And then with Key, there are no goals with Key. The fact that he's even just back being ridden and back competing is more than I ever thought I would get again. And so I have no goals with him at all. We're just taking it as it comes. I would love for him to get to advanced and be able to wear my tails with him. But if that doesn't happen, that is absolutely okay, because the fact I even have him to ride is just a dream come true. So yeah, but probably with him, I'd love to say advanced, and I'd love to take him interstate next year. We're hoping January he'll go interstate to the Youth National Championships, and then we'll just see how he goes from there. So yeah, anyway, those are just a couple of the questions that you asked me on Instagram. I'm sure I'll film something similar to this again in the future. So yeah, if you don't follow us, I'll leave that link down below, and then you can be a part of the next video. So anyway, thank you for asking questions and learning a bit about me, and I'll see you in the next